I've looked at my review of Fast and Furious, directed by Justin Lin from 2009. As yes, we are back once again, ready to discuss something from the channel. This time around, the fourth entry in the Fast and Furious franchise, and yeah, this is an interesting one. I saw it last night for the first time, and yeah, resuming the films, in the Fast and Furious franchise, and I have a few things to say about this one. There will be a spoiler warning for this discussion. If everyone's seen this film, I simply recommend seeing it first, and then come back to this video, and we can go from there. We can talk about it from the comments, and yeah, celebrate cinema. And so yeah, with what I said, let's discuss my thoughts on this film, and yeah. This is the one that I was quite hyped for, actually, and just to see the return of Paul Walker and Vin Diesel together, which hadn't happened since, the first film at this point, and yeah, it's just something that I was quite interested in seeing how they would take the series forward, of course, and this is, Tokyo Drift we did discuss last time round, and I really enjoyed that film, and I thought that was a standout film so far, but yeah, it was obviously, that is set, after 4, 5 and 6, so that is quite interesting, and yeah, obviously we're going back and we see Han in this film as well, a brief kind of cameo, soon Khan in this film, so that was quite cool, but this is a very different film, and it does kind of try to, follow on mainly though from, Fast and Furious 1, and, the events of, 2 aren't really, mentioned at all in this one. It's more focusing back on the first entry in that sense, and yeah, just have, kind of Paul Walker, as I say, and Vin Diesel back again, and this friction that kind of follows on from the first film is in this film, and we have just, kind of back and forth at times, feuding and actual fighting in this film, and, punch-ups, and it's just, yeah, it's quite a bizarre, set of scenes actually involving that, but, I think it's quite cool at first. We do see, obviously, Vin Diesel, we see Michelle Rodriguez, and, various characters, in this open sequence, with obviously the tanker. But I do think it's really cool in this film how we have, Dom and Brian, kind of just putting all the differences aside, all the tension, the kind of friction between the two of them that's followed on from the first film, the events of that, and, put all this aside and try and take down this drug smuggler and, drug lord, of course. And John Ortiz plays, the main kind of villain of this film, Braga, and as we know, in the end, he was actually, the main villain and the one that they were trying to look for, and there was quite a cool moment actually, in the final act with the whole face, reveal and all that kind of stuff. That was quite a cool twist involving the main villain of the film, John Ortiz, and I think a good performance in this film. I wasn't huge on the villain though, the way the villain was written, and I think just throughout, his presence was just more of a bit generic at times. I felt, but that's one of the things about this film. We'll get straight into what I think on this film now. I think actually overall this has some really cool elements, and I think just some moments that I really enjoyed, and some action in the film that was really impressive. It's got some really charming interactions in this one as well, and I think seeing Paul Walker and Vin Diesel back again, both of these kind of actors here, it's just great to see, and obviously Jordana Brewster as well in this film, and I think quite a few, kind of cool moments in this, and investing parts at first, but overall, I think actually this one is a bit underwhelming for me, and I did overall, by the end of this film, expect a lot more, and I think it was one that unfortunately just underwhelmed me by the end, yeah, and it was something that, I think the first act of the film, first kind of 25-30 minutes or so, I thought was, really strong actually, and, I was thinking, yeah, well, this is going to be quite something then, it doesn't disappoint, so far, and, I think after that, for some reason, the plot, once it started kind of, started to unravel, and we have more, kind of, the drama between, full-on Vin Diesel and Paul Walker, the characters of Dom and Brian, I think it's just something about this where it's not as charming as it could have been, and it just lost me a bit, with the plot, I think it did become, a bit convoluted for me, and I think just some of the twists and turns, reveals, just some of the angles of the way it was done, just all at once in a sense, and just as well, some of the kind of middle of the film is quite dull actually for me, and I think the visuals at first, when we've got the daytime sequences, was really good actually at times, but when we go into that kind of middle portion of the film, and we've got this all, all the stuff at night time and across the desert, it's just kind of trying to get, across the border, to Mexico and all this, these sequences, which are cool, at times, I think they are quite investing, and, it's well done, and again, some really tense moments, the stunts, are really cool in this film, but I think it's just something about this with the narrative, it just kind of loses me, and it starts to become quite dull, that's the thing, and generic, just a kind of generic action film, and it kind of loses its identity actually at times, you know, as a Fast and Furious film for me. And you know, it's quite interesting how this is the final one to be the kind of you know, street racing kind of scene, you know, in this franchise. And you know, after that, we have really you know, the transition to heists, you know, kind of spy action type films, it seems, and that's going to be quite cool to see. But you know, considering the first 3 films, you know, this one just doesn't quite feel as authentic as those, and you know, the style to it, and the overall the tone to this, and the actual charm, and the kind of whole, you know, campy nature, you know, of those films that I really enjoyed, you know, I think is a bit missing from this film. And it wouldn't have bothered me as much, you know, if just, you know, had been a bit more compelling with the more dramatic side of the film. Because when we first have Brian and Dom kind of reuniting in that sense, they don't actually look at each other really. And you know, you've got Dom, you know, at one point with his back to Brian, and obviously holding the character out the window there, which is a really funny moment. And you know, I think that was quite cool there. But you know, then we have, yeah, kind of Brian, you know, the gun, and you know, we don't actually have them in that sense at first, you know, really talking to each other full on, face on, and that was really epic actually. And yeah, I think it was a great way to kind of build up their, you know, full on, you know, kind of a reunion in that sense. But then parts, you know, throughout the rest of the film, you know, I was thinking it's a bit more investing in that sense. And actually, for me, I think they went a bit too far with the whole kind of tension between them, and you know, that whole kind of fist fight actually. You know, the kind of middle portion of the film, that was something I wasn't actually that big on. You know, I don't really, you know, think that was something that was needed to be, you know, kind of, you know, kind of shown in that sense. It was just a bit kind of one-sided, and you know, Dom just full on beating up Brian, even though Brian kind of let him go, you know, Dom at the end of the first film, and you know, kind of all that, the kind of stuff that he'd done, and you know, kind of risked his whole, you know, kind of life in that sense. And Dom, you know, kind of obviously he'd been, you know, off at, you know, different locations, you know, at one point in the film, until, you know, obviously returns to LA, and obviously that's the whole kind of point, you know, and him and Brian, you know, kind of teaming up, and you know, put all the differences aside, kind of thing, to kind of take down this drug operation. But I think, you know, he does return obviously, but I think just the fact that all that kind of stuff that Brian done, and you know, how, you know, kind of apologetic he is, and obviously, you know, him and Mia, you know, the whole kind of thing that's going on there, you know, the situation, you know, between them, but you know, it's just a bit out of place really in that sense, that whole kind of fight sequence. And it was just one of the things, yeah, about, you know, their relationship in this film, Dom and Brian. It's just a bit one-sided and kind of unpleasant in that sense at times. It's not the most enjoyable kind of, you know, kind of yeah, relationship to watch. The dynamic between them, and obviously the performances really elevate this, where, you know, I think some of the writing and just the way they're kind of portraying these characters elsewhere, you know, are not as good as they could have been, but the performances do elevate this. And you know, Vin Diesel is really good in this film. You know, I think they make him a bit, you know, kind of this character of Dom, a bit too one-sided in this one though. You know, and just the way he's a bit, you know, he's very, very serious in this one, and you know, just full-on kind of angry. And I understand, obviously, we have obviously, you know, Letty at first being killed, and that was something as well I wasn't huge on actually. Michelle Rodriguez, you know, in the film at first, you know, really once again energetic and all this, and really enjoyed the chemistry between her and Vin Diesel. But then she goes out of it so quickly, you know, in this one, and obviously that does lead to you know, Vin Diesel kind of investigating, you know, in a sense, and being really you know, kind of broken by this as well, you know, though, so it does affect his character. And I can understand how through that, you know, he is obviously, you know, quite down in the film in that sense, you know, just his whole kind of character, you know, in that sense, and he's not, you know, like he was in the first film, but you know, I think it is just, you know, a bit one-sided in the way it's done, and I think it could have been a bit more kind of layered, and you know, a bit more kind of fleshed out even, and you know, complex, and we could have had a bit more of the kind of the charm still to, you know, Dom in the film. And yeah, obviously Paul Walker is a different kind of take, you know, on the character, because it's quite a few years obviously on from 1 and 2, you know, those films. And yeah, I really enjoyed Paul Walker in this film, and you know, I think just, you know, he really plays this character very well at times. And you know, I think the film though at first was really interesting, and you know, it's just, you know, the FBI stuff, and you know, just that first kind of street race, well, it wasn't as good as the other, you know, previous films for me in the way it was shot, and just the whole kind of excitement of this and the way it was put together. You know, I think it was really cool, and yeah, it just had that tone again, and you know, I enjoyed the FBI stuff. Shea Whigham in this film as well added a lot, you know, kind of friction between him and Paul Walker. You know, that kind of whole, the bit where, you know, Brian, you know, caves in, you know, Shea Whigham's head. You know, that was just so funny there. You know, it's just some really, yeah, funny moments at first, and it balanced out, you know, this whole kind of stuff with the FBI, the investigations, and the whole kind of the plot threads with, you know, the other characters to return, and you know, just the build up, as I say, between Brian and Dom, and also between Brian and Mia, and Dom and Mia as well. You know, you've got all this stuff going on. I thought that was really well done at first, but then it just loses me in that sense. And I just thought, you know, by the end of this, it wasn't living up to, you know, my kind of hype of the film. And Gal Gadot's in this film as well, and you know, Giselle, and you know, she, you know, was good in this film. And you know, I think kind of interesting how, you know, her character was done, and that, you know, the kind of stuff that was going on between her and Dom, you know, in this film, Vin Diesel. But you know, I think in the end, it doesn't really, nothing comes of it. And you know, I think there's quite a few threads in this film actually that weren't really going anywhere by the end of it, and we just have more setting up the next film. And I am hyped to see the series going forward, you know, with Fast 5, and you know, that's something I'm really, really pumped up for, and just to see this kind of different take as well on the franchise, this being the last film with the street racing culture kind of, you know, scene. And you know, that's something that, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how it transitions in that sense. But yeah, this is a one that kind of is a bit underwhelming at times. You know, as I say, I really did enjoy that first kind of half an hour or so of the film, and you know, I thought it was well directed here, and you know, I thought, so, as I say, the visuals at times, you know, in the daytime sequences, you know, yeah, definitely really impressive, and you know, quite nice to look at, you know. But at night time, it's just very, very dull, and you know, I think just quite a few stretches of the film, you know, that are just more dull and dark and just kind of dingy, and you know, not as engaging visually, and just the way it was done in this film, and the whole kind of bit where they go through the tunnels, just the way in which you know, it's kind of executed, you know, just how it kind of recurs quite a few times in the film, you know, in the final act as well. You know, I think it's just a bit underwhelming as well, and you know, there's not really as much kind of in the way of, can I really see what's going on here, and get fully kind of pumped up by the action here? And the answer is probably not really. You know, that's the thing. It's a bit kind of confusing to look at. You know, some of the editing in this film actually with the action, you know, it's not quite as good as the previous ones, you know, in the series for me. But we have got some parts where the cinematography is kind of on par with those films. But I think it's just, there's something about this film at times where it is a bit dull to look at. And yeah, I think considering, you know, as well, just how the first film ended, you know, with Dom and Brian, as I say, I was just really hyped to see how they would take, you know, their characters in this film. And you know, I think it is just a bit underwhelming, and not really living up to what I wanted in this film. You know, I think everything with Brian and Mia though, Jordana Brewster in this film, she was really good here, and you know, I think actually that was something I did really enjoy, their relationship in the film, and that wasn't something that was disappointing really for me. And when they first met as well, you know, the kind of, you know, the diner, and you know, just the interactions there, and the more, you know, the humanity kind of came out there, and a bit more warmth, you know, within especially Brian's character there, and that was something that I did really enjoy throughout this film, and you know, how they did kind of, in a sense, get back together as well. That was something that, yeah, I really enjoyed the romance in this film. So we've got some parts that do elevate, you know, this. You know, I think it's mainly the plot and the characters that are introduced in this film, and the whole kind of the flow of the film, and just some of the whole, yeah, the action in this film in the middle, you know, especially, just wasn't really for me. And in terms of just the whole experience of this, it did lose me, you know, as the film went on, you know, in that sense. It's just one that, yeah, it's got kind of this dull feeling to it, and you know, one that as well, you know, I wanted more of the kind of the bro moments, you know, just the warm kind of charm interactions, you know, of the first three, and that whole kind of campy nature to those films. It was lacking here. And just as well how we have some of the characters at first, kind of obviously Letty returning, Han returning, you know, showing up in this film obviously from Tokyo Drift, you know, he was in that, and you know, I love that character, as I say, you know, in that film, you know, just really great character. And I did discuss him in Tokyo Drift, how much I love this character, and you know, I think just seeing him at the beginning of the film and just kind of more of a cameo role, that was something, you know, I was a bit disappointed in. And Letty as well, and Michelle Rodriguez, just kind of again showing up for the first sequence, which is for me the best action, you know, in the film really. And you know, I think from there just kind of you know, I wished characters like this was in the, you know, we're in the film consistently. That's kind of what I'm saying there. And you know, it's just a bit annoying to kind of been teased at first, and then, you know, not really returned throughout the rest of the film. But even though we've got the lack of some of these characters, and the charm of this whole kind of the bro moments and all this, and the comedy really, and the campy nature of the previous films, you know, I did enjoy the references to the first film, especially, you know, between Brian and Dom, and there's glimmers, there's moments, you know, in this where we have that kind of you know, the relationship they had in the first film, where it was kind of tense at times, and but you know, even in the final sequence, it was tense, it was full on, but there was that kind of charm, and you know, the back and forth banter in a sense between them. And you know, I hope that does return, you know, more in Fast 5, and I look forward to that. And yeah, just really, you know, even though this was a bit of an underwhelming one at times for me, you know, as we went on in the film, I did enjoy this one. You know, I think especially the first half an hour of this, it was really, really promising, and really engaging, and you know, I enjoyed the performances, you know, consistently throughout. You know, the stunts to this, really impressive, and you know, some visual moments as well, and just definitely pockets, you know, moments of the film that I did, you know, I was still invested in, even with the plot, you know, just that the reveal, you know, for in the final act of the film, and you know, I think Shea Whigham, you know, his character, and just moments where they cut back to the FBI, even though some of the characters even there were completely kind of dropped off at one point. You know, I did enjoy that, and you know, I think overall, definitely, you know, a film that I did enjoy, and one that was, you know, it's definitely, you know, fun at times, but overall, it just lacks that consistency and the whole kind of charm and the warmth of, you know, the previous films, and it does become a bit, you know, more of a generic action kind of you know, thriller film, crime film, and you know, more of with these characters in it, and you know, just kind of the Fast and Furious kind of yeah, the feeling, that tone that was established at first in this one, and you know, in a unique way, it just kind of is missing consistently throughout this film. And it does, as I say, become more of a generic, you know, kind of action film just at times for me. And so overall, my rating for this film is a 62%. So definitely a film that I enjoyed, as I say, but it's one that just, it kind of is disappointing a little bit to me, considering how much, you know, I was really enjoying the first film, and you know, the ending of that, and how it kind of sets up, you know, kind of this friction and this kind of whole dynamic, and you know, leaves things unanswered for Dom and Brian, and just the way in which, yeah, they return in this film. And at first, you know, the build-up was really, really good in this film, but I think just, you know, consistently throughout the film, their relationship in the, you know, in the narrative, you know, even though they're kind of teaming up again, you know, I thought that was a bit underwhelming for me, as I say, and it wasn't done in a very enjoyable way at times in the film, but you know, it ends nicely, and you have obviously that insane kind of set of events for Dom, you know, in the final moments, which is just really, really baffling to me, but then obviously it just leads to them, you know, the end of the film, loads of the characters kind of driving there, and about to kind of, you know, kind of rescue Dom from the kind of the bus there, and it was quite an epic moment, I guess. But yeah, it's just really bizarre at times, you know, that final set of sequences. But yeah, I think just the way in which Dom and Brian are done in this film is up and down. Really, it starts off really, really good, but then it kind of yeah, it goes off, and you know, I think the performances are something that really, you know, keep this film you know, elevates, I guess, you know, where I wasn't really too impressed at times with some of the kind of character choices, and some of the narrative in this one, you know, for the returning ones especially, characters, and just, I think the villain in a sense is a bit dull, and not really that enjoyable for me. It has its moments, this film, it has some really, really strong moments actually, and the whole first half an hour of this, it was really, you know, enjoyable, and you know, I did, yeah, enjoy this quite a bit, you know, first, and some of the parts, you know, throughout the film were, you know, really cool, but you know, I think it isn't one that overall it was I was that big on, and was that investing for me personally. So yes, my thoughts. What do you think on this film? Really cool in the comments your thoughts on this, your experience with this film. How does it compare for you to different films in the franchise? That'd be cool to discuss down below in the comments. And next up will be Fast 5, and that's the one that I'm so hyped for, and just to see characters returning, new characters as well, and just, you know, from what I've kind of heard about that film, you know, I'm just really, really hyped for that, and that'll be within the next, you know, kind of 2 weeks for sure that I'll be watching that film, and hopefully get a review up as soon as I can, and yeah, just, yeah, the rest of the franchise as well, not just that film, but the rest of the film was really, really hyped for most of these films, and yeah, just to see where they take the characters, and how they kind of as well transition, obviously, into the more, you know, heist-based spy action, you know, kind of films, and that would be cool to see. But for now, let's discuss this film in the comments and celebrate cinema. So yes, as always, take care, and thanks for watching.